Hey there, good evening. Nice to see you. And this is the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to reporters and writers and editors and journalists and people who write about the Bronx so you can find out a little bit about what's going on behind what they write about in the borough of the Bronx. We're going to do that in our first segment. In our second segment, we're going to go to a beautiful choral society in the Bronx. We're going to talk about their upcoming event and help them promote that. But right now, my buddy Emily Swanson, who is they list her as reporter for the Bronx Times. I say she's an ace reporter for the Bronx Times. And nice to see you, Emily, and welcome back to the program.
Of course. Thanks for having me again.
So the community boards weighed in on the Metro North mega project. We've done a number of interviews about it. Um, so why don't we review with these hearings, with these just individual votes? Just give us a little background about what the community board saw that got them to cast various types of votes.
Yeah. Well, so the community boards are tasked with giving their advisory input. Advisory meaning it's not binding to anything or anyone, but it does influence, at least to some degree, what the electeds have to say about it going forward. So the community boards were asked to give their opinions about the Metro North project. And right now, the project in general, which is huge, a massive, massive, superly complex project, is under public review right now. And it's all just in like proposal stages. It's nothing is really finalized at this point because city agencies and all the multitude of agencies involved, they are taking public input into account. But it gets a little complicated because the project is, while it does add 4 new train stations to the East Bronx, it's much more than train stations.
Let's go Hunts Point, Van Nest and Parkchester,
Mhm.
Co-op City, and Morris Park.
Right.
I'm
Yep.
going right up the line there. So that's where they are. And so, okay, so you're putting train stations in, but the idea is to have some kind or kinds of developments around those train stations. And of course, in the borough of the Bronx, we've been burned 40 million times over development that just kind of gets created and nobody has input. I think the idea here is to get input and do the right thing.
Yes, yes. The city agencies are very much saying that they are trying to do this in conjunction with the community, not to overwhelm or compete with anything that's already there. They're very much trying on their part to have to make things fit in nicely in a way that also adds to the goals, the city overreaching goals of increasing housing density and creating more open spaces and opportunities for businesses and small businesses.
So I thought it was interesting. So let's start with the approval. Community Board 9 liked the idea, according to your story. What was it, and why did they like? Now, Community Board 9 is the Parkchester Van Nest station largely. Why did they like it?
Yeah, well, from what I could tell from the public documents, their vote was unanimous yes to support the proposal with conditions. And it looked like a couple of those conditions were actually aimed at increasing the amount of housing. Like basically, it appeared to me that they're in favor of housing density in their area. And that is one of the 2 stations that would be getting additional housing under this proposal. So Parkchester Van Nest and Morris Park are the 2 stations that would be getting housing. The other 2 would not.
Okay, so that's interesting. So the Community Board 9 liked the idea of getting the housing. We're going to show just some mock-ups that we had done with, kind of existing and proposed. But they like the idea with conditions. Presumably, they want to have some input into the type of housing. Certainly, the word affordable can't be a phony word. They really want to make it affordable. That goes without saying. But then in Community Board 10, further north and east, they voted against the project. What were their
Mhm.
concerns?
Yep, and CB10 was the only one to vote no outright. And so they were concerned about, like you said, affordability, making sure that it actually is affordable. That means different things to different people, of course.
Right?
Also, they were concerned about building height.
Yes,
Um,
I'm sure they were, because many of the homes in that community, of course, are private homes and low-level homes, and all of a sudden, if you live in that kind of community, you don't necessarily want buildings like the ones that are right behind me, for
right,
example.
right. And they also said, and they were not the only board to say that they really want home ownership opportunities, not necessarily just rentals. And so yeah, that board voted no.
So they voted no. Now, and again, it's not prohibitive, but it is a very strong statement. Then Community Board 11 approved, though not unanimously, but I thought it was a pretty over what was like,
Yeah,
25 to
25 to 5.
5 or 6. Yeah.
Hmm. Yep. Yep.
And what was their point of view?
Well, they while they did approve it, they were concerned about the same sort of building height issues that CB10 addressed. They wanted a certain zoning cap to basically limit the height of buildings that could be constructed there, whereas the city had proposed more of what they say is a mix of zoning limits. So that could be one issue of contention that they have. Also, like right now, it's a little unclear if anything has changed. There was some strange drama very, very recently, just over the past few days, where it looked like they were going to reverse their recommendation to vote no.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then
This
ultimately,
just in, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah, yeah, it was very strange.
Well, because it wasn't in the story you originally wrote. Yeah.
No, no, it was just after that, and then ultimately that got overturned at that same meeting that just happened at the end of last week, where the board chair and vice chair got demoted from their leadership.
Oh, that became another whole thing.
It
So
did. It
so
did.
right.
The
Well,
board chair was the person who had written the letter about the rezoning, and she also testified at a recent ULURP public hearing
right.
at the borough president's office. So it's all, but I believe that that their motion to overturn the recommendation got defeated, and they still
So
are.
that still stands. What I want to do just with you now, we did this when we did Bronx Talk with the head of the Department of City Planning. We put together the existing look and what a proposal is. So let's look north along East Chester Road and see. So on the left is a lot of people know this. I guess this is looking. This is the area right near Albert Einstein College of Medicine. The difference between what you see there on the left and then what the proposal is on the right is rather stark. In
Mhm,
other words, you're talking about taking a whole busy corridor and putting a lot of houses, a lot of buildings in there.
mhm,
And so I could understand some of the concern of people saying, well, wait a minute, how drastically are we ready to change the nature of this community?
mhm. It really is an ambitious proposal, and it is a lot of big changes that people would very quickly see and feel. And I think it's important to note that, like, especially in terms of the housing, it wouldn't all appear at the same time.
Well, of course, yeah,
That,
it would
yeah, that it would
take
take some time.
take some time to be built. On the other hand, people need housing. You bring more people in, there's much more opportunity for commercial space and commercial, advancement and opportunities. So there you go. All right. So here's another one looking south from the corner of Eastchester Road and Stillwell Avenue. So a lot of people know where that is. There, I guess that's Einstein Medical Center in the distance. This would on the right, it doesn't look like too big change because you've got the parkland there, but on the left, you're really talking about building again a community, a corridor of businesses that wouldn't exist or that don't exist right now.
Mhm. Yep, and you can really see, like, those images on the right, like, just more of the space is filled in general, there's
Yeah.
up, and, a lot of what the city plans to do, well, this Metro North proposal does incorporate the principles of, City of Yes for economic development and City of Yes for housing opportunity, and, like, the idea being, like, a lot of neighborhoods will have something commercial on the ground floor and then housing above that.
Yes, that is a big city of yes thing to increase the opportunity for commercial space in residential areas. So again, that's in a way the trade. You're going to get those buildings, but you'll get new stores, and of course that means more jobs and it means more commerce, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
It will. Let's look at one more. This is looking west along East Tremont from Montgomery Place. And I guess they're talking about putting an aisle in the middle. I saw this one at least visually is not as big a change. I mean, some new housing there, but not as big a change. The left side, you know, looks very similar.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't know if you have any comments about it, but um, the real question then, Emily, is who then is going to determine this? It's going to ultimately come to the city council, right? And
Mhm.
usually, now it's not a rule, but usually they listen to the local council members.
Usually, yeah. Yep. And it seems at this point that a lot of the local electeds, just in general, are supportive of the project, heard the same general support from the borough president. But everyone does have concerns, and they're bringing constituents' concerns that should be looked at and answered to in some way. And yeah, the process of public review is ongoing. The Euler process for these zoning changes that would be necessary for the housing proposal or the housing component of it, that takes about 7 months or so. So
Wow.
so in the coming months, there are going to be more opportunities for public input. There's one actually this Thursday in Parkchester. There's going to be
Well, the whole idea really is to keep Emily as busy as she can be.
of course, of course.
Clearly, that's
At a time.
yeah, clearly. And you say over the course of time, it just means we're all going to have more discussions about it. Listen, before you go, I want to just ask you about another story you wrote. I thought this was good news. The Fulton Community Reentry Center opened at the site of a former prison. Now
Mhm.
that's really kind of a nice thing. Just we got about a minute. Give us just a little bit about what that's about. I think people should get some good news in their head here.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the project was over a decade in the making. It took a very long time for basically the state to turn over this facility that had been a prison and now is a reentry center. I think it was 140 people who are recently out of incarceration. They can stay there. They can get their assistance with jobs, build relationships. That's something that I'm sure they've been
Yeah,
lacking.
this is so needed because you can say, well, okay, they were incarcerated, they did something wrong, but if they're back out, we may as well help them rehabilitate and get jobs and start families or do whatever it is that people who are free, not in prison, get to do.
Yeah.
And I just thought this was a really good news. Listen, Emily, we need you. We're so thrilled with the work that you do, and you keep doing what you do, and we'll keep bringing you back here on the Bronx Buzz.
All right, great. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Emily Swanson, ace reporter for the Bronx Times. Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, folks, we're going to take a short break and then we're going to clear our throats and get along with the Riverdale Choral Society. Don't go away. Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. I'm thrilled because, music is what makes the borough go round. And we have a wonderful choral society joining us. It is Madeline Ritter, the president of the Riverdale Choral Society. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
And Mun-Tzung Wong is the music director of said Riverdale Choral Society. Nice to see you, Mun-Tzung.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. Madeline, a little background. What is the Riverdale Choral Society? How long you been doing this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Give us the whole spiel. And spiel is the right word to use. I get that. Okay.
Okay. We're a community chorus, and we've been here in Riverdale for almost 60 years. This coming year is our
Wow.
60th anniversary year.
I'm applauding.
Yes, you should. We applaud ourselves too. So currently we have about 55 singers, up from the days of the pandemic. We're rebuilding. We have a wonderful, diverse group of people that we're diverse ethnically, age-wise, voice types, and we are delighted to be singing. We generally have an ambitious repertoire, and
Right.
John can tell us more about that.
Yep. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
Do you audition people, or like anybody who really wants to sing, even me who sounds like a bad Bob Dylan, uh, um, can join, or is there some level to make sure that they at least can carry a tune? I don't want to be nasty about it, but I know where I would fall if I was there.
Yes, there usually are auditions in our first 3 open rehearsals in the beginning of each season, meaning the fall season, first 3 rehearsals on first 3 Wednesdays of September, or the spring season, which is in January,
Right.
also the first 3 rehearsals that we have open auditions, and anyone can join in and see, can get in touch with our rehearsal, and I would get to
And
hear
what do you
each of them.
what do you find in terms of the types of people? Madeline was talking about the diversity and all that. We get young, old people who have experience in music, people who don't have experience. Tell us a little bit about who these singers are. I mean, it's pretty impressive. You got 55. Goodness, it's impressive you can get them all in the same room at the right time, let alone having them sing a real program.
Indeed. We are aiming for around 60 or
Wow, well, you're
70
getting
singers.
there.
So you see, you have maybe a 5 more spots left if you want to join us, Gary.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, you're talking to
we have
me?
a very
Yeah, you
yeah.
you don't want me. I'll be one of those people that you say, "How do we tell him no?" Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So we have a very diverse group of singers. We have singers who have been in symphonic choirs for many years, and we have singers who have been just doing folk songs or just singing in their own living room, and they just wanted to sing. And we also have all kinds of age groups. We have the age groups starting from, I would say, undergrad or fresh graduate to the adult, where maybe in their retirement.
Senior citizens, you can say it.
So it's really diverse and all abilities. So really,
How
I hope you can
often
see us.
how often do you rehearse? I mean, people are busy. People have jobs. People have families. People have all kinds of considerations. Do you get everybody in the same room at the same time?
Yeah.
Oh
Um,
yes.
Well,
Yeah.
Madeline wants to answer that. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Madeline.
so we rehearse every Wednesday evening.
Every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday evening between Labor Day and the first week in May. We have 2 concert performances a year, one in December, and our spring concert is the one coming up this Sunday.
That's right. Um, and I just love the construction of it, and to bring all these people together. Mun-Tzung, do you is it difficult to teach, because a lot of people probably haven't heard the music that you're going to be singing? How do you teach it to them? It's like if you played me a folk song or a rock song that I knew, I would be able to kind of half have an attempt at it. But if you were doing choral music that I had never really experienced before, I'm just guessing that the teaching process must be a difficult one.
I would say sometimes could be challenging, but it's extremely invigorating for me.
Really?
I, as the music director, I take on mostly this is a big part of my job, teaching the music to each of the choir member in our choir, and we have a wonderful accompanist, Brian Holman, at our piano this season, and we really collaborate to make sure that all of the singers hear the music every rehearsal, that we
So that they're
continue
able
to
to do it.
rehearse. Yes.
Now, then the other thing about bringing 55 people together, not only to sing but just to even be there, you need a space. Now, the performance, let's promote it. This performance is May 5th at 3 p.m. at the Christ Church in Riverdale. Is that where you rehearse as well, or do you find another location to rehearse? I just think the process, considering that people are so busy, is so interesting to me.
Oh, it's a beautiful space at Christ Church Riverdale.
So that
and we
that's
rehearse
where
there
you,
every Wednesday.
and that's where you rehearse as well.
We
Yes,
rehearse in
every
the,
Wednesday.
yeah, we rehearse in the social hall and perform in the sanctuary.
Ah, there you go. So it's a
Yeah.
little prettier, I guess, in there. Let's just talk about the program. Who selects the program?
It's the music director. That would be me.
Oh, there you go. So let's talk about the program that we're going to be seeing and hearing on May 5th at 3 p.m. Just tell us a little bit about what's in it. I mean, I
So,
can read it for you because I've got it in front of me, but I think it'd be better if you kind of explain it a little better than I can.
so this concert is focusing on the feeling of being in the spring season. The spring season
Uplifting for
signifies,
spring, yes, renewal.
yeah, renewal, rejuvenating, and our program this season really focusing on the dance between the poetry and the music. That we also hear the songs, not just from the music, but from the poetry. That I believe that will is my hope that to awaken our senses.
So
To
somebody's going to read the poem, or the poems have been put to music.
the poems were set to the music, so we
Wow.
are singing the text through the music.
And did you set them to the music, or were these pieces that were constructed by somebody else at another time?
They were set by different composers
By
from
different composers.
different
Program
composers.
here, I got it.
And a couple of them are traditional folk songs that will be familiar to you, but they've been arranged for singing by choruses.
All right, so I'm going to read it. The features a setting of the Dylan Thomas poem "Fern Hill" by John Corigliano, "The Evening Primrose" by Benjamin Britten, James Mulholland setting of "Red Red Rose" by Robert Burns. In addition, the concert will include, and I'm going to mispronounce it, Verano Porteño by Astor Piazzolla. Is that correct? And various songs in folk and popular traditions. In terms of selecting the music, Mun-Tzung, how do you go about doing that? I mean, the options must be considerable. Do you spend a lot of time listening, or do you try it out with some of the more experienced members and say, do you like this one? How do you arrive on what's going to be?
Well, I have known the choir and the choir members for, I would say, over a decade. So from that experience, I can hear what possibilities that we can have. And on top of that, I wanted to also develop a collectiveness with some of the repertoire that we haven't sung before. We are doing some a cappella music, which means without accompaniment, and we're really finding our own voices melting and blending together.
Your enthusiasm is infectious. I really appreciate, number one, your dedication to it, and number two, the fact that you are putting these people together. Do you find that some of these people, like themselves, get inspired and then maybe go on to say, you know what, I really kind of did okay here, and now I'm going to pursue maybe a career in music or do other things.
Yes, I can see that. I can see that.
You
A few
do.
members have spoken to me individually that they wanted to participate more outside of the Riverdale Choral Society and just continuing the craft, continuing what they have been inspired from our group here.
Right. I'm going to ask you each this quite this kind of esoteric question. So, Madeline, we'll start with you. What is the importance of music in your life and in people's lives? Like, why is this more than just all right, another show and community groups putting a show together?
So I'm retired, and in my career was as a social scientist and a consultant. It was not connected to the arts at all, and I find that singing with the chorus connects me to the artistic endeavor, to the experience. Just watching Mun-Tzung's artistic decisions connects me with what it means to be an artist. And of course, being able to perform music to bring other people pleasure is extraordinary.
I was worried about asking that question, and you answered it beautifully. I just think in times that I've seen choruses, it's just so powerful. If you have that many people, and I'm sure Mun-Tzung feels it every single time. So, what about you, Mun-Tzung? About the nature of music? Of course, the nature of music in the Bronx, it's so important. I feel like we've invented all of it. It comes from who we are. But talk to me about you and music and what this means to you.
Music is like oxygen to me, if you can already feel it. I it's every day. But I think in our community choir, through music we are expressing ourselves, and I see music is like a common language between each of us, and that's something that can't really you can't quite replace that with
It
something
really
else.
we're almost out of time. It really communicates outside of the regular conversation, for example, that we're having. Anderson, if you could throw up the flyer, people can get tickets. You can do the scan thing over there. It is Sunday at Christ Church in Riverdale at 5040 Henry Hudson Parkway. And you can get tickets as you see. Just scan that QR code. Listen, Madeline Ritter, I'm glad I ran into you at the Riverdale Farmers Market, because that's how we got this going. Mun-Tzung, you are one of the most important people in the borough of the Bronx. Don't ever doubt it. We need you. We love you, and we need you to keep doing what you do. Bring out music for the people of the with and for the people of the Bronx. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Folks, that will do it for the Bronx Buzz. We thank Emily from the Bronx Times. We thank our Riverdale Choral Society friends for joining us. And you know what they say, what we say, if the curtain don't fall and the creek don't rise, we'll be back next week. Good night.